Ross Allen, welcome to the Entrepreneur Next Door. It's a pleasure to have you. Obviously, you're in the car in is that Manhattan or Queens? Where are you?
No, I'm in God's country, Queens.
You're in Queens. Okay, you're like down in the trenches.
Oh man, I'm in Forest Hills.
There you go. So this is fine. Hey, I'm glad I grabbed you. I'm glad you're on. It's going to be exciting. Hopefully you won't be disturbed by homeless people or anybody else, but it's okay.
Cops.
Oh, cops. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, right.
All right. So let's dive right into it.
Sure.
Please introduce yourself and explain to the universe why you don't have a last name.
First of all, I'm Russ Allen. I am the CEO of a company called Wellness Now, and I've been an entrepreneur since I was really 12 years old. When I had a, a route for the newspaper, and I hired my older brother and my best friend. They did the deliveries, and I did the collections. I really, all my life, have loved being an entrepreneur. Saw it as one of the most creative parts of life. So I've owned a lot of different businesses, everything from something as simple as a cleaning. And I came to New York in '82 and started as a CEO of what was then a cleaning company, and turned it into a $3 million a year, 75 employee multi-service company providing um, interior construction and maintenance services to the largest landowners or landlords in the city, including the Helmsleys and Chemical Bank and so on, AT&T. I had a 15,000 square foot facility with a complete wood shop, built entire floors of furniture and so on. So had a great experience with that, raised my family, moved into a completely unrelated field, which was computer animation in 1990. This is more than a little while ago. We had the second Silicon Graphics computer, which at that time was the only computers that did computer animation in New York City. So it was so rare, people would pay me by the hour to have my computer render their images. So from there, I've built a software business, and now I have, through life's experience, a wellness company that provides wellness management, pardon me, management and marketing services.
Okay,
And
so
I
I
love
want to stop you now because you're going to reveal way too much. So this was good.
it. Was
Uh, let's go back to, I always like to go back in history, like go to a time machine, dial it
sure.
back. Um,
Okay.
you went to Berkeley?
I did. Well, I raised in the Bay Area. I went my first year to UCLA and then transferred to Berkeley. And then in my sophomore year, worked as a volunteer in the hospital that was on campus. And my junior year, ended up moving in with two students who suffered from quadriplegia, and they were my roommates.
So I know what you look like, and I've studied you a lot before this. I think you're like me. We are the short people.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, I'm regular size.
yeah, well, I'm 5'7" and rapidly shrinking as I
Yeah,
age.
right. I
But
used to be
but
5'7".
okay. So, but the reason I bring this up is not to highlight our deficiencies, but to bring NFL into your life because you were
Yeah.
somehow you got involved with the National Football League. So how did that happen?
I had a business partner who introduced me to a really prominent player, a man named Otis Anderson, who was a Super Bowl 25 MVP. And Otis became friends. And he introduced me also to a gentleman who became more than just, really worked together for the last 10 years, Bart Oates. Both of the gentlemen played for the New York Giants. Both had two Super Bowl rings. And Bart, when his contract with the 49ers, with the Giants ended up out in San Francisco and won another ring with the 49ers. So I was asked by Bart Oates to run a wellness challenge or initiative of the NFL alumni, which I did following a number of years working as a volunteer in the New York market, and then As Bart became the president of the national organization, I went with him, and we ran the NFL Alumni Wellness Challenge, which ran for, well, it's still going. It's on its fifth year. And we focused in on initially the obesity of our members. Then we transitioned to training the members to provide coaching for others who were looking to gain control of their weight. And I'm happy to say, we had 18 guys in the original team, and 15 of them lost a minimum of 35 pounds, which was a great experience. So we went from there to serving the public. And then really this last year, we were given recognition by Mayor Adams, and he proclaimed Tackle Obesity Day in New York City on World Obesity Day last year.
But you have, other than your involvement with the NFL players, the Hall of Famers, and starting this initiative, you have your own story of obesity.
Yeah, no, gosh. When my famous before picture is in front of the the sign in Death Valley, and I was about 238 pounds. So for a guy who's 5'6", that's way, way, way over the line. Went through a heart attack, began to get serious about dealing with my weight issue, and that's really what brought me into dealing with obesity, is my own personal need. My wife joined with me. I've lost 60 pounds so far. She lost 70, and now we live a different lifestyle.
So I want to talk about more of the community health as we get forward, but obviously obesity is a big deal. And I remember when I was a graduate marketing professor at Two University, we did a case study on the diet industry, and I asked the MBA students, I asked them, why do you think this industry is so big, the diet industry? It just for in terms of numbers, I got myself updated before the podcast. In the US alone, the industry is around $90 billion. Worldwide, it's over 200 billion. So we're talking about diet and such. And I asked them,
Yes.
why is it so big? And everybody had some ideas, but at the end of the day, the reason the industry is so big is because we as human beings are incapable of sticking to being disciplined and sticking to a diet on one side, but then obviously the lifestyle change that's required to maintain the weight loss.
I would add to that a very significant addition, and that is with the introduction of ultra processed foods in the 60s, America didn't have an obesity problem before then. Those foods, the increase in the percent of our diet that is ultra processed foods, follows almost exactly the increase of obesity in this country and in the world. Now they call it, when people start the Western diet in Asia now, they're people that never knew obesity in the entire history of thousands of years of their culture are now fighting with obesity. In India, there is twice the rate of diabetes as the normal or general population of the world because of the shifts demographically and in their diet. In America, unfortunately, obesity is a big money machine. It's much more than 50 billion because when you look at the health related costs associated with obesity, it's in the hundreds of billions. So unfortunately, that creates a financial cycle where
Mm.
fast food, I mean, I watch TV and football, and every other ad is about either alcohol or a food that is very detrimental to our health. It's, McDonald's, they've tried to shift over to healthier choices, and they lost money. So they're back to selling us, the kinds of things that are filled with ultra processed, high carbohydrate, high fat, and really, and this is no revelation. This is nothing new. What I think is important to recognize is it didn't just happen. It is directly associated with the introduction of the ultra processed foods.
So the industry and maybe medicine, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, now introduces Ozempic and what's the other one? GL1, which is
Well,
okay. You don't have to.
the GLP-1 is the category of the drugs,
Okay.
uh, and the lower dose is Ozempic, and the higher dose is called Wegovy, and both of those drugs are from the Novo Nordisk company out of Europe, and they Novo Nordisk, interestingly enough, was a sponsor for the initiatives with the NFL alumni,
So
and yeah.
so now you take a shot. I mean, do you have to get the shot every month? I mean, what I forgot. Ozempic. You have to
Well,
be on Ozempic for life, right?
there's it's Ozempic and Wegovy are both a weekly shot, and what they do is they ratchet up the amount of dosage over the first 2 months to where you level off at an amount of the drug that, yes, the intention is to have you on that drug the rest of your life.
Without a lifestyle change. So you go back to McDonald's and eat pizza and cheesesteak.
The reality is your appetite is what's affected. So
Okay. Yeah.
and the way that your body processes digestion is affected. So this affects your pancreas, it affects your brain, it affects your colon, and so it isn't one area of the body it affects. It affects multiple areas, starting with your diet, and I mean your appetite. So when you're on Ozempic or Wegovy, you eat a lot less food, significantly less, and your digestion. About 30% of people quit the drug simply because the negative impact of their on their digestion is so detrimental they simply can't stay with it. And
But
that's
so so your initiative with the NFL, Hall of Famers to first serve their community and then expand it to mainstream with coaches who will
yes,
help people and I watched the video and I looked at the site and the premise is yeah, everybody needs a coach, which I like because I'm a business coach. But
yes,
beyond that, the reason is you can't do it on your own, and it's not just about eat less. There's a whole regiment that you have to follow if you really want to get healthy. Losing weight's
yeah.
the
Well,
first step.
that's it. I
Yeah.
mean, you're really the regimen is to eliminate from your diet all the unhealthy things, which is kind of significant, and then it is to input into your diet things that are healthy. So a lot of people lose weight in a lot of different methods. What's interesting is all of the major weight loss companies now are shifting to where a portion of their business is using these drugs. Weight Watchers now has a whole service line that prescribes Ozempic and GLP-1 drugs. And there are, I estimate, 5 new versions of these drugs in the pipeline. And they will become oral pills that you take every day. I don't know how it's going to affect the cost because the costs are never associated with anything other than what they think they can get for it. And I think they work backwards from the where right now, for example, Ozempic has been given indications for heart disease, along with diabetes, along with Wegovy getting indications for obesity. The cascade effect of you losing weight reduces your risk factors for heart disease, which include high blood pressure and cholesterol issues, because you stop eating. You stop eating a lot of the things that you would have normally eaten. Sadly, a lot of the weight you lose is your free muscle mass. And free muscle mass is the most important, thing that you hold on to. As we age, we shrivel. The effect of aging is things go away. I call it gluteus gonus. I used to have a butt. It ain't there no more, Zeb. It's just gone. It just shrivels up.
Wasn't that
And
why that was that the first thing your wife noticed when she decided to hang out with you? So
that's a
what
whole
what's
long
so
conversation. But
so
yeah,
what's the implication? And by the way, as a disclosure for everybody watching and listening, Ross Allen is not a medical doctor. None of what he's talking about is medical advice. He shares his experience. So now we got this out of the way. What is the impact of losing muscle?
well, it slows your base metabolic rate, number one. Muscle uses a much higher amount of just standing. If you're sitting still and you have more muscle, your body will burn more calories. So when you lose, free muscle mass, your entire metabolic rate lowers. So it becomes harder to lose weight because your metabolic rate lowers. Then when you, for example, a lot of people when they go off these drugs that have lost significant amounts of weight, the studies have shown about 75% of weight comes back on within the first year. But the muscle doesn't return. It's all fat.
Mm.
So it's a double whammy. So now you're regaining. So what do? You don't go off the drug. You stay on the drug. And so that's unfortunately the catch 22 there is that you need to stay on these drugs if you're going to do it ongoing. And very rarely do people successfully get off the drugs and no longer take them.
Mm.
Those that do are very mindful of the amount of protein that they're eating. They supplement protein often, and then they they really exercise aggressively because you need to do those two things.
So I want to go back to rooming with two quadriplegic
Yeah.
roommates in college. How did that, what did you walk away from that experience? Because that's a tough thing to deal with and live with.
Yes.
You're fully functioning, you have roommates who are not. Did that at all, if you look back, because when we get to our age, we look back and say, yeah, you know what? It's interesting. If I knew back then what I know today, that would have, I'm not surprised I'm where I am at today because of my previous experiences. My
Right.
question is, did that experience plus working with the NFL on obesity, did that sort of drive you into healthcare in general
Well,
because it meant
interestingly
so
enough,
much?
I went from living with two students who were dealing with quadriplegia to then starting a food bank in East Oakland, which ran for 7 years. And so that opened me up also to the need for, you know, the social situation that people have. The good thing is we were distributing food mostly from fruits and vegetables. And, we did get donations of things like ice cream and pizza and so on that we would give away as well. But we had a 40-foot long trailer refrigeration unit that we used, and we got donations of literally millions of pounds of food that went into the low income communities. What was interesting is people really love the fresh food. And they loved that it was free. And free is a big driver if you have your food choices. Unfortunately, today, and I'm taking a little bit of a sideway trip, but today, 10% of EBT money, electronic benefits, is spent on Coca-Cola products.
Hmm.
10% of those billions of dollars go into the worst possible thing you can put in your body is something like that. And I'm
Yeah,
sorry, Coke.
and I'm sorry to interrupt, but because my audience is international, I always like to break down terms we use because they're not always that
Sure.
clear. So EBT, that would be the government assistance. So people who are on welfare would
Right.
get these food stamps or EBT cards now where they can use to support themselves. They go to the supermarket, and so like you said, instead of eating healthy, they might buy, sugary soda. But so you in Berkeley, did you do the food bank directly after graduating college?
Actually, I quit my senior year and started it in East Oakland.
So what? So this is a part that I love to dig into. So a kid who is 20, 21,
Yeah.
what was that decisive moment where you choose to go start a food bank as opposed to moving to San Diego and going surfing?
I was at a weekend workshop with some friends, and one of the guys said, "Well, listen, you wasted 3 years," because I was talking to him about staying in college. "You should waste 4." I'm like, "Crap! What do I do with that?" So, I will tell you, I follow my heart, and it was for me the right choice. I wasn't, and by my senior year, Zev, I had negotiated with my professors. So I was basically a grad student. I had independent, I don't even go to class anymore. I just produce papers. And I was originally going to go into medicine, went to UCLA. They took me they had all the pre-meds in the first year. You're going to love this one. All of them come into a room and they said, okay, everyone that's here that wants to go into medicine because you want to help your fellow man in their moment of need. man, my hands up in the second row. I'm having what we call a Sally Field moment. They like me. They said, medicine's a business. We don't care what your motivation is. We're going to get rid of the ones, but the ones we want, don't let the door hit you in the butt. And it was, for me, it left me despondent for the first 6 weeks of college, but it changed my perspective of why I was in college. And I was there so I could do something with my life. And when I saw the opportunity to do something more like start a food bank in East Oakland, which was really profound. It ended up creating a national movement in this kind of work. It was worth doing. And as an entrepreneur, nobody asks an entrepreneur really, well, where they graduated with what GPA, and because you're working for yourself. And I love that about it because I never liked somebody else telling me what I was worth, whether or not I had what it takes or any of that stuff. So I said the chance as an entrepreneur is a chance to believe in yourself, express yourself. So in many ways, starting a food bank was an entrepreneurial endeavor. I had to raise the money, I had to come up with a game plan, I had to recruit the people, and that was really the rest of my life. I did those kind of things. And
So
yeah, I'm honestly very altruistically motivated. Money in my mind is a vehicle to do good. So for the most part,
this is, I mean, it's super inspiring, especially for the generations that came after us who are, using their thumb to advance in life. And I really, they don't know what hard work and sacrifice, or taking 4 years to turn to be 7 years in serving others, right?
yeah,
Not for money, not for profit. It's just
okay,
doing it because it's the right thing to do because you're impacting. So
yeah,
now, there are a lot of entrepreneurs, and I always say to people that I work with or interview, why? Why'd you start the business, right? If it's for monetary gains, that's why 80% of entrepreneurs fails, because that's not the reason to start a business. It's for
yeah,
to make a difference, right? Obviously solve a problem, but make a
yeah,
difference in someone else's life. And if it's the right solution and it's done the right way, then it will grow as your food bank became a national campaign or whatever you want to call it. So we fast forward to Wellness Now, which is the company that you have today. You're the founder and CEO. I'm going to read this word for word, and you can just unpack that. You're an advocate. You are experience-based advocate, supporter of non-invasive, non-surgical future for medicine. Okay,
yes,
it's it's a disruptive view. The word disruption, people misunderstand it. It doesn't mean have a negative impact to it. Disruption means it's more like innovation. It's an alternative way of doing what we do today in a way that people don't think about, right?
correct.
So talk about wellness now. And again, I'm going to read another paragraph because somebody who's been in the medical industry for 18 years, I can really relate to it. So, Wellness Now serves as a provider of preemptive wellness, preemptive wellness care that, whenever possible, anticipates the development of a disease and intercedes at the earliest moment with non or least invasive treatment. And I've got the words preemptive, intercede, anticipates, non invasive all bolded out because that's the opposite of the norm. So go ahead. Talk about Wellness Now. Why did you start this company and
Yes.
where's the disruption? So what's in the back of it? Why are you making a difference with it?
Well, the great question, and the reality is the medical model, the business model of medicine, has adulterated the relationship between the physician and the patient. So, what do I mean by that? I mean that decisions are made as to what to offer you in terms of solutions, not because it's best for you or least disruptive in your life or any of that sort of. It's because that's how they make a living, and that's how the organization that they work for make a living. And I'm not just besmirching anyone in the medical world by saying that. The reality is doctors burn out every day because they are forced to do things that they know there's a better way to do it. So what I've looked at is what is a business model that can pay the physician more to do what is optimal. And Zev, if on my gravestone, should I have one, I want there to be the new Hippocratic Oath, which will be do what is optimal. Not do no harm, do what is optimal, because do no harm means cover your butt. It means you can get away with whatever you get away with. But do what is optimal means you have to do what's best. Now, let's learn how to make money and keep everybody motivated in the medical world, give them greater satisfaction. And those are the things I'm looking to do. It's introduce business models. And most of it is going to be a subscription based model between the physician and their patients, a subscription for the services of the physician as well as for the services of a wellness center under the Wellness Now brand. So imagine you go into a wellness center branded Wellness Now, and there your doctor works with your exercise physiologist and possibly a coach, a wellness coach who guides you. And instead of them worrying about, what pills can I give you and so on, it's much more what is specific to your profile, your personal condition, and how do I address best, keeping you in an optimal state of health. And in doing so, I earn my money by doing that. Every doctor that I've ever discussed that with said, that's why I got into medicine. That's what I would have loved to have done. It wasn't taught to me. It wasn't an option for me. And that's what's missing, Zev. It was interesting in the last presidential debate, there was a discussion about the healthcare, and neither one of them had a clue as to what was really needed. Because this is what's needed. We need to reward those who provide healthcare for us for keeping us as healthy as they can. And that's the goal. And obviously, least invasive or non-invasive methods are less expensive, hence more efficient. But the rewards for the physician for really paying attention to my needs and preventing me developing conditions, that's really, to be able to reward them more is a great idea. And that's my goal, is to pay doctors more, but to do it to keep you optimally well. So that's Wellness Now, is what you want when you want it. And then the other brands, Optimal Wellness, Optimal Age, Optimal Athlete, that I own are all different ways to reach the market and talk about those specific areas of need.
So the one challenges of disruption in general is that
Yes.
you are asking keep people for behavioral changes, right? At least a mindset change that instead of taking pills where yes, they help me, but the long-term impact on the liver or any other organs, we're going to pay the price at some point, right?
We don't even know what the price of Ozempic and Wegovy is long
Yeah,
term.
yeah.
We
We
don't
don't
know.
know, but it's we're a pill-taking society, and now your message to them is no, there's an alternative way of
Well,
obviously.
here's an interesting notion. America is the only country that allows drug advertising on television. You can't do it.
Hmm,
It's illegal around the world, including the countries where these drugs are made.
right.
So we have bought into a consumer, and it's what you're saying. We're used to buying the solution instead of being the solution. And that's the difference. Because there's no money to be made. If you prevent a disease, Ev, what do I make off you? Well, if it's a subscription based model, great. I get Zev, I get him happy. I get an annual bonus if Zev doesn't go to, doesn't need this and he doesn't need this and he doesn't need this. What a better model. We have to use a free enterprise model. This is very powerful to motivate our providers to keep us from needing them.
So it's interesting because I mean, as you said that, I was thinking about my most favorite way of managing employees is through performance incentive, right?
Yes,
Instead
yes.
of dangling the stupid Christmas bonus in front of people, you said, listen, you commit, you be accountable for your work, whichever it is, whether it's salespeople, whether it's customer service or somebody else in the warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
When we do well, you do well. Okay? It's
Yes.
that's it. So if you go back to the physicians, you say, listen, instead of prescribing, you have accountability to the well-being of your patient, and as we demonstrate that they are on a trend line of optimal health, as you call it, that's how you get rewarded, which is, by the way, the reason you got into medicine to begin with, right?
Yes.
When
Yes.
I was in the medical industry, and so this was coach 13 years, so it was at least yeah, maybe 20 years ago, where we were working with hospitals. The trend became what was called the GPO, the Group Purchasing Organization, where hospitals gathered themselves together, created
Yes.
a powerful purchasing group, and went back to the pharmaceutical and the medical device companies and the suppliers, and they said, okay, there's 20 of us. This is who you do business with now. And
Yes.
everybody had to lower the prices and had to give them preferable conditions. By the
Yes.
way, that didn't mean that the price that they charge a patient dropped.
No,
That
no.
wasn't part of the deal.
Just adds to the margin.
Right. And so what people I don't people understand it. I mean, I live on Long Island and Northwell is the largest healthcare provider and I'm part of it. They own, I believe, 21 or 23 hospitals. But here's the thing. They started to buy, maybe 5 years ago, they started to buy private practices of family practitioners. And so
Yes.
now the doctors went to work for Northwell. They were
Yes.
incentivized on referrals to the hospital. They liked it because they didn't want to deal with the headaches of insurance and paperwork. And so you have a closed loop system of, I don't want to call it corruption because it's unfair. It still works, but it's a closed loop system where, like if you want to do optimal, you're not going to get your bonus, right?
Right.
Because you're not referring enough people. And so,
Well, but here's what I would say is the value chain from the consumer standpoint is an enormous amount of the money that, and 20% of our GDP, we're almost there, goes to healthcare. It's unsustainable. So if we're going to be no longer competitive, although the robots aren't going to need blood pressure medication.
but 20% of GDP goes to, meaning what? Where's the
That's
20% going?
healthcare. It absorbs 20% of our GDP as a country.
So is that Medicare? Is that
It's
where's that?
everything. That's drugs. It's everything. Everything related to healthcare. But other countries they have a fraction of that is dedicated to their healthcare. Probably Japan. Interestingly enough, Japan, their healthcare costs about 1/7 of that of the United States. Breathe in and say that word, 1/7. Now, how is that possible? Because they see their doctor 4 times as many times as an average American, because they prevent disease formation. It's
Hmm.
all about preventing disease formation. You don't have a disease, you don't need a stent, you don't need a pill, you have to prevent disease formation. That's the goal. And in Wellness Now, the goal is to incentivize providers to do that and to reward them for doing it. Just what you said. Use the benefit model versus the negative model. And in so doing, there will be some rice bowls broken. Not everybody's going to eat the same way they ate. That Northwell has enormous infrastructure. That costs a lot of money. The bureaucracy behind that to support that infrastructure, if a lot of that goes away, there's going to be a lot of people not so happy. Unfortunately, that's the reality. That is disruptive, Zev. That
Hmm.
is the nature of disruption. You create a more efficient model
So
for whatever.
so Wellness Now is this sort of a concierge subscription model, or is it just how do I become part of Wellness Now if it's in
Yeah,
my
well,
neighborhood?
it's interesting. I've really spent the last 10 years developing the concept of wellness now. And I'm negotiating now to open up our first centers. Okay, honestly speaking, I've had fits and starts with it. I took a 12,000 square foot lease, signed it on December 31st of 2019. What happened in January of 2027
COVID.
in
Yeah.
COVID? It crushed that business. So I spent 3 years, bucketing my boat that had nothing but holes in it because of COVID. Couldn't bring a patient in the door for the first 6 months, or they would take the doctor's license away. Nuts. So, and it was our first pandemic. We didn't know how to do it, and we didn't know how to address it, and we didn't know where it came from, and we didn't know, and we were giving it to children. Once the vaccine was developed, again, it became a business model giving everybody a vaccine. The reality is, who died from COVID? Old people and people with contraindications. Normal people, and certainly young people, weren't dying from COVID. There's no, there's the counterindications of vaccines almost were as dangerous as the disease itself to people in those ages. And those young people, they got COVID, but they just got better. People who are old or who are obese or had heart disease or had all those things, they died from COVID. Not young people, not healthy people. So unfortunately, the business model, it all comes back to the business model of incentivizing disease treatment versus disease prevention. And so the short answer is, I'm negotiating now to open up first couple of Wellness Now centers. The challenge is you have to introduce new modalities for it all to work. So it's a leap. It's not a small step. But the world has caught up with me, Zev. When I started 10 years ago, I was talking a different language to people. Today, people are more and more aware of these things that are beneficial to them. I'll give you a really quick example. Hyperbaric oxygen therapy is the singular, least invasive, most beneficial modality that people could be used. Should be the cornerstone of wellness. Because why? You basically use a natural agent, oxygen, which you 100% in a hyperbaric oxygen chamber. And for people to understand what it is you're in a chamber that is pressurized with normal air, so there's no explosive nature or anything. You're breathing 100% oxygen through a mask, and in doing so, every red blood cell in your body is filled with oxygen. But because you're using 100% oxygen, the plasma, along with the blood cells, now carries. So every cell in the body is nourished with oxygen, which increases the respiration rate, increases the ability of those cells to release waste products, and increases their ability to replicate in a healthy way. All good things. And what's crazy is it's paid for by Medicare and different insurances, but for such a narrow band of conditions where we know the benefits are much broader. But those benefits prevent disease. So that would be, and it will be, a core modality in a Wellness Now. And we'll have multi-chamber units that will allow many people to be able to benefit. And you'll just schedule it like a gym. And there are other devices and treatments, and that, again, I've researched for the last 10 years. So that's the direction I'm going with it. Obviously, you can hear the passion that I have for it. And in, no small way, my own battle with my own wellness is what's driving on a certain level. And then just honestly, before I was, as a healthy young man, I was as interested and passionate. I didn't know a lot of guys who moved in with two other students who had quadriplegia. I don't know anybody who did it. I did it because I was motivated to be able to learn how they had to live their lives. Here's the most important thing I learned by living with people that had that severe disability. Their dreams and their desires were no different than mine. They wanted to have a wife. They wanted to have a family. They wanted to have a job and a career. They wanted to have friends and fun. Geez, that sounded real familiar. No difference. Up here, no difference. What this tissue was doing, obviously, it was an endless struggle for them. And I could go into detail as to how difficult that is. But, that was what I learned. The most important thing is there's no difference. So when I meet a disabled person and interact with them, and now mainstreaming disabled is a great thing. The Paralympics, they drew almost as much a TV audience as the regular Olympics, which, can you imagine? That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And so we're at a different stage. I mean, I was involved in the original demonstrations, not because I was an organizer, because I just showed up for the ADA laws. And again, my roommates were part of the team that put those demonstrations together.
Right.
And then
And
I was
again,
hired. Yeah,
ADA is American with Disabilities Act, the protecting people
correct.
with disabilities. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was
So,
hired by the gentleman. This is a great aside. He was a a polio quadriplegic since he was about 6 years old. He had he had to spend 18 hours a day in a what is called an iron lung that breathed for him. So the other 6 or 8 hours a day, he could breathe on his own using what's called a frog breathe, where you gulp the air in. And Ed was appointed by Governor Brown to be the head of the Department of Voc Rehab for the state of California. So Ed knew that I was a designer of aids to daily living, having lived with these other students. I ended up starting a small business, and I would sit down with a severely disabled person and say, okay, what do you want to do? And I'd come up with a gizmo that would let them do it, whether it be open the door, take a leak, or fry an egg. I could end up making something they could use. And it was, for a period of my life, it was something I really loved doing. So it was, again, but it was, I use the entrepreneurial model to help them and to care for people. And I, still do.
Yeah, and the entrepreneurial model, despite what people trying to make it so complex, it's actually very straightforward. Find a problem that's unsolved, fix it. Fix it in a way that's affordable, doable, that actually makes a difference. So I
Yeah.
want to touch on, because your wellness now, one of the areas that, I challenge me, I'm sure challenges you, huge business, other than for me, it's pain management, right? We're all in pain. And as
Yeah.
we age, we're in more pain. And as we age and we play pickleball 4 or 5 times a week, we age even faster because it hurts. That's a very interesting industry on your model of preemptive anticipation and interceding, right?
Yes.
I went to HSS, which is Hospital for Special Surgery in the city, and I did a pain study of my lower back and sat down with Dr. Kim, and I said, "So what do we do?" And he said, "Surgery or live with it." So I said, "Okay, I'm going to live with it," because anybody I know that had back surgery needed more than one after that. So as long as I'm active, I'll deal with the pain, and I don't take any pain medication. I just learn how to allow my body to heal itself. If I'm hurting, I'll take a break for a week. So do you does wellness now address pain management, and how do you address it in a non-invasive way? Because nobody wants surgery, and pain medication is addictive, as we all know.
Yeah. No, the answer is absolutely. Hyperbaric oxygen is actually very effective at treating certain kinds of pain. Two, there's a company called LifeWave. It has a small disc that I did a study with the NFL alumni of a lot of our members, and it's a photo cell. Imagine, Zev, a photo cell that looks like a band-aid, and you can put it on an area of pain, and it takes visible light and converts it to into actually it pushes it into the bloodstream, and which they think activates stem cell activity that reduces the pain. As to the actual mechanism of action, I'm not sure, but I can tell you I did the study 3.5 years ago, and this weekend I got a call from one of my guys pleading with me to get him more of those discs because he uses them, and he swears by them, and I use them. So I will tell you, and that's a band aid. It's a band aid. No drugs, no surgery, no nothing. And I'm talking about significant pain can be treated with a band aid. So
Wait,
I'm
so
always
so
looking. Yeah.
so my L3, L2, L5, whatever all those L's are aching. So you tell me that
I'm
you
going to
can
send you a packet of these,
you can
and
hook
you're
me
going to,
up with the thing I put on
yeah,
my back, but does it have to be, do I have to walk around naked for the light to hit it?
only if you want to.
No, I don't want to. Nobody else wants me to.
No, you don't have to worry about that stuff. You just put it on there, and the light gets through the fabric, and that's enough.
Yeah, I mean, look, and we talked before, because we suffer from back pain, and it's debilitating at times, And it's
Yeah.
like, again, there's so many. I mean, you can go to a chiropractor. I discovered a modality called active relief therapy, which actually did help me a lot. It's not
Yes.
adjustment.
Yes.
There's so many things around pain management. It
Well, we're going to
is.
be bringing a new device from Canada that's just been approved by the FDA. It's called a Sonic SONIK treatment, and it uses audible sound to affect the alignment of the spine. and the inventor, and Dr. Aslam Khan is a friend, and I'm working with him to bring it now that it's FDA approved to the U.S. And the thing about it is it uses. I mean, when you're treated with it, it feels like you're just standing next to a speaker because it's audible, like 40 decibel sound that is used, and it realigns the spinal, and it's used all over the world. He's got 20 offices all over the world that use this therapy in the wealthiest communities in the world. So
Hmm.
it's not anything that hasn't been tried and true. So again, I'm always looking. So I bought the domain Wellness Crash Dummy because if I'm going to try it. If it's somebody says this is going to help you, I'll try it. I will absolutely, unless I know it's not beneficial. Why? Because how can I have integrity telling people, not as a physician, but as just a normal guy, this is going to help? And Zev, I can absolutely tell you, LifeWave is an amazing product there that has systematically benefited not me, but a whole array of guys with pain, and it's going to help you.
So I have two questions. One is, as a teaser, I got your friend Dr. Bard to be my guest
Yes.
on Monday.
Whoa, wonderful.
Um, Tell me about him and his approach to non-invasive, without disclosing too much because I don't want to take the steal
No,
the
no.
thunder from him.
First of all, his name should be Saint Bard because this is the kind of doctor I felt I wanted to become. He has such a passion. He's the kind of guy who prays for 8 days of the week so he can work one more. I mean, to say he's a mensch is like a put down. He's just such a great guy. And he has such a passion. His passion is to use imaging to identify disease formation at its earliest state and use a least invasive modality to resolve it. That's it. It's what he does all day, every day. And he's looking at all kinds of different ways, and he'll tell you about it, that he's researched with people to do it. So whether it be, anyway, to your point, I don't want to
Yeah, yeah,
steal any of his thunder, but yeah, St. Bard.
yeah. Saint Bod, who's uh, 80 years old, still going strong, and
Oh, yeah.
and is not done leaving his mark on medicine
No,
and
no,
making a
no. In
difference.
fact, he's in some ways more impactful today than, earlier in his career. He's just doing some amazing things. So I'm honored to know him and work with him. It's great.
So you've gone around the block with entrepreneurship more than
Yes.
a few times. You're still in it.
Yes.
What's the biggest piece of advice you can give people who are considering an entrepreneurship? Most people don't disrupt and take chances the way you have. There's somewhere, middle of the road. That obviously going on your own is a huge risk to begin with, right? So we'll put
Yes.
that aside. And you should do it if you have, I don't like the word passion, I like purpose better. If there's a purpose to why you're starting entrepreneurship and making a difference in people's lives, you've done it more than a few times.
Yes.
What's
And I've fallen flat on my face, and I've been very successful. Done both.
Yeah, I mean, when I was teaching entrepreneurship in the MBA class, I said it's kind of like show them a video of a baby who's starting learning how to walk, and I said, watch, okay, stand up, wobble, fall down, stand up, take a step, wobble, fall down, plant face first, get up. I think the difference, perhaps, between our generation and the new guys who are more techie entrepreneur SaaS guys is the lack of patience. They want things to happen quickly because it's technology, it's phones, it's app, it's IT, it's AI.
But that's
That's
also that's the environment they're in. That
yeah,
is the economic environment. The ability for a competitor, as investors, they always talk about first mover advantage, Dev.
yeah,
So, as you know, as a professor, that is a critical. And to maintain your first mover advantage it can be everything. Anybody hear of MySpace these days, right? They got $5 billion and didn't make it. Steve Case, AOL, made a ton of money and then wasted a bunch of it on a healthcare thing because he was fifth mover. So, what I would say is if you're going to be an entrepreneur, there are some core fundamentals. Now, entrepreneurs start laundromats, right? One of my business partners is starting a vending machine company, and he's doing well. So it's not like, you have to, as to your point, create a whole new industry. You just have to identify a way to do it where you're providing a solution at a margin that is profitable. I mean, those are the two things. That if you don't have a profitable margin, my dad used to say the first expense of business is profit. If it isn't the first thing you book, then you're not in business. You're doing something else. So as entrepreneurs, we kind of like to do good and do well, and today's world, and that's fine. And why are these tech companies so profitable? Because they have tremendous margins. Once you get the software, I owned a software as a service business in 2003. Started a company called Empowered Builder. Served 150 builders across the country. Guess what happened in 2008? The
Mm.
subprime mortgage put all of my customers out of business in 3 months, Zev. 3 months we went out of business. It was crazy. So I will tell you, even really affect, and I was doing well, making money, growing the business, and then an environmental shift changed everything. And then I had an Empowered Build, a doctor, which was a marketing company using, and then Google changed the way they did their search algorithms, and basically took that part off the board. So you can be a great business person, fail completely, and you can be okay business person and do incredibly. So a lot of it has nothing to do with you. So as an entrepreneur, you have to believe in yourself. You have to stay to the fundamentals, and then you have to look for opportunities that you can be purposeful and passionate about. Because you do have to live with it. So if as an entrepreneur, you live and breathe it. So if it isn't something you feel a deep affinity towards, it's probably not something you should pursue.
Yep. So I was going to ask you the last question I ask all my guests. If I gave you a billboard in Times Square, what would Russ Allen put on it so millions of people can see it every day? But I think you just said that like 20 seconds ago about entrepreneurship, right?
Oh yeah,
You got to
absolutely.
believe in yourself. You're going to
Yeah,
fail. You got to keep going. So
yeah,
with that, um, this was fun. This was
that was
you,
great.
my first podcast guest that sat in a car in the five boroughs of Manhattan, wasn't mugged. You were not towed while you're sitting there, which is also amazing.
Yeah,
Uh,
but I have sat without the air conditioning, so I'm ready to go.
okay, well, that's what we're doing in September. A couple months ago, you probably would have passed out. So,
Oh, yeah,
all
for
right,
sure.
Russ, thank you so much. I'm going to look for those Band-Aids, photo cell Band-Aids. That was incredible. Thank you so much. It's been great. Take care.